Sister stole boyfriend. After 2 years, I caught them kissing. Mom said, "It's for your good." 3 years later, I exposed them at a family reunion. This all happened around 10 years ago, when I was 19. Back then, life seemed to be going quite well, or so I thought. It was nearing the holidays, which typically meant I'd get to visit all of my family, but this Christmas, everything just fell apart. Consider this. I was dating a guy named Liam. He was my first genuine boyfriend, and I felt we had a good relationship. You know how it goes with your first love. You imagine it will last forever. We'd been together for about 2 years, and I was wild about him. I was the girl who assumed, oh, we're going to get married, have kids, and live happily ever after. I had no reason to suspect him because he always appeared so committed to me. Then there's my older sister Emily. She's 2 years older than me and served as my role model growing up. I looked up to her for pretty much everything. She was clever, popular, and seemed to have it all together, or so I thought. We used to spend a lot of time together, so when Liam and I started dating, I introduced him to her right away because I wanted them to like each other. A big mistake. But I will get to that in a minute. Fast forward to Christmas. My family had planned a big get-together, but the vibe was off from the outset. I couldn't put my finger on it, but something seemed odd, especially with Emily. She was behaving distant, while Liam was, I don't know, he seemed dodgy, like he wasn't himself. My instinct told me something was wrong, but I didn't want to believe it. You wouldn't expect your own sister to be dodgy. Anyway, a few days after Christmas, I discovered exactly what had been going on. And I mean literally walked in on them. Yeah. I strolled into Emily's room to borrow her hair straightener or something, and there they were, Liam and my sister, kissing like two adolescents at prom. My heart has just stopped. It was one of those moments when time seemed to freeze, you know? Like you can't believe what you're witnessing. I did not say anything at first. I just stood there staring at them, trying to understand what was going on. What do you say in a case like that? They didn't notice me for a few seconds, until Liam looked up and froze. Emily did too, and the expression on her face? She resembled a deer in headlights. There was no denying what was happening. It was right in front of me. My boyfriend and sister. I only remember feeling a rush of rage, despair, and shock all at once. My chest felt tight, and I thought I was going to vomit. I managed to sputter out something like, "Are you serious?" before bolting out of the house. I had no idea where I was headed. I simply needed to get out of there. My thoughts were racing, and my heart was devastated. The two individuals I trusted the most had stabbed me in the back, and I wasn't sure how to deal with it. Later that night, my parents discovered me. I'd been sitting in my car for what seemed like hours, crying and trying to make sense of things. When they knocked on my window, I thought, finally, they're here to comfort me. But they didn't. Instead, they instructed me to calm down and think rationally. Rationally? Seriously? They attempted to persuade me that these things happen, and it's just a guy. But it wasn't only Liam. It was also about Emily. My sister. You're betraying me in the worst conceivable way. They were repeating stuff like, family is family. You have to forgive her. Like, what the hell? How am I expected to forgive her for this? I was infuriated. I felt like I'd been pushed away. Like if my feelings didn't count. It became worse when Emily had the audacity to approach me and say, "I'm sorry, but we didn't mean to hurt you. Liam and I just have feelings for each other." Feelings for each other? Are you kidding me? They had been sneaking around behind my back, and now they are in love. I could not even look at her. I told her she was dead to me and I never wanted to see her again, and I meant it. Of course my folks were not having it. They kept pushing the family forgiveness angle, claiming I was being theatrical. My father truly told me to grow up. My own father. It felt like I was losing my whole family at once. I couldn't believe they agreed with her. It was as if I did not matter at all. I'd lost my boyfriend, sister, and now my parents. I was alone. For months. I didn't know how to deal. I was depressed and completely numb. I stopped speaking to everyone. I'd go to work, come home, and just lie in bed. I would cry until I couldn't anymore. During that period, the only person I had was my best friend, Jade. She made sure I ate and got out of bed. But that wasn't enough. I couldn't shake the idea that I was worthless, as if they were right and I was simply being dramatic. Eventually, it became too much for me. One night I simply broke. I couldn't see a way out of the pain, and I believed that the only way to make it stop was to end it. So I composed a long letter describing everything, about Emily, Liam, and how betrayed I felt by everyone. and scheduled it to be posted on Tumblr after I left. Then I took a number of medicines, lay down, and waited for it to be over. But Jade, being the fantastic person she is, discovered me. She called 911, and I believe they arrived barely in time, because I awoke in the hospital the next morning. I was sleepy and bewildered, but I was still alive. They put me on suicide watch after that, which was actually the best thing for me at the time. I needed aid. I needed to go away from everything and everyone who had damaged me. My grandparents were the only ones who came to see me while I was there, not my parents or Emily. They did not try to push me to forgive anyone. They simply sat with me, let me speak, and truly listened. They rescued me in more ways than one. They picked me up after I was discharged and took me to live with them. I disconnected from everyone else, and for the first time in months, I felt like I could begin to heal. As I already stated, my grandparents took me in once I was discharged from the hospital. I can't express how grateful I am for them. They didn't try to force me to talk about something I wasn't ready for. They were simply there for me. I was still struggling mentally, but for the first time, I felt like I had a support network. But, even though I was safe and in a better environment, the aftermath of everything was just beginning. See, I had entirely cut off my parents and Emily. I blocked them on everything, including Facebook, Instagram, and my phone. I didn't want to hear one word from them. I was finished. They weren't concerned about me when I needed them, so why should I bother? But as I was attempting to heal and move on, my best friend Jade was out there, angry on my behalf. She was furious about what had transpired and was not going to let them off the hook so easily. I didn't realize it at the time, but Jade was plotting her own small retribution. One day, out of nowhere, she texted me. "I did something, but I think you'll like it." I was like, what did you do? She says, "Don't be mad, but I shared your note. The one you posted on Tumblr. I made sure everyone saw it." I was stunned at first. I didn't want to expose my dirty laundry to the world, you know? But the more I thought about it, the more I realized, screw it. Whether they didn't care how I felt, why should I care whether others know what they did? And by shared, I mean that Jade tagged my parents Emily and Liam in the post and called them out. She went full savage. The post went viral in our small circle. Jade had over 1,000 Facebook friends, and they started sharing it like crazy. I had no idea how many people were aware of what had happened until I began receiving texts from random high school classmates, former co-workers, and even individuals I barely knew. Everyone was coming out of the woodwork to tell me how messed up my family was, how much they cared about me, and how they couldn't believe Emily and Liam did what they did. But that wasn't the weirdest thing. People I knew weren't the only ones who were upset. They also knew others. My mother had a reputation in her church as a perfect, wholesome person, and when members of her congregation saw what happened, they were outraged. They really booted her out of the church, telling her she was no longer welcome due to how she treated me. Imagine being excommunicated from your own church for anything like that. I heard she attempted to apologize or explain herself, but no one wanted to hear it. She was considered a hypocrite, and it ended her social life. My father? He also lost a significant number of pals. They were disgusted by how he supported Emily and encouraged me to just get over it. Some of his closest pals abruptly cut him off. People perceived him as a cold, cruel person, and they no longer wanted to be affiliated with him. And Emily? Oh my, Emily had it the worst. I'm not sure how she managed to leave the house after what Jade posted. People dubbed her a homewrecker, a backstabber, you name it. Some of her closest friends abandoned her, claiming they didn't want anything to do with someone who would betray their own sister in that way. I've heard she got into conflicts with people in public, such as at the grocery store, because they recognized her and called her out. I'm not going to lie, part of me was relieved to hear she was receiving what she deserved. It was as if the universe was finally showing her the consequences of what she had done to me. Liam was also held accountable. His family is really religious, as in they attend church every Sunday. And when they discovered what he'd been doing with Emily behind my back, they freaked out. His parents sent him away on a retreat or something to find God again. He was away for months, and when he returned, he and Emily had split up. I don't know the specifics, but I can infer that he couldn't manage the criticism, which put a gap between them. Good riddance. Throughout it all, I was simply trying to concentrate on myself. My grandparents had put me into treatment, and I was beginning to make some improvement. I was making progress, even though it was sluggish. I didn't care what was going on with my family or how unhappy they were. At least that's what I told myself. But hearing about their lives falling apart felt like justice. as if they finally knew what they had put me through. It was messed up, but I wouldn't say it didn't feel wonderful. My grandmother, on the other hand, sat me down one day and said, "Your mom tried to call, she wants to talk." I just rolled my eyes. Why would I want to speak with her now? She didn't care before. Why should she care now? My grandmother simply nodded and said, "I know, honey. But I wanted you to know." I considered it for a second. Was I curious? Yes, a little. Did I care enough to reach out? Absolutely not. My mother had created her bed, and she now had to lie in it. I wasn't about to give her the satisfaction of believing she could simply return to my life after everything she'd done. It wasn't only my mother attempting to reach out. Emily had messaged me on Instagram, and yes, I forgot to block her there. She was attempting to apologize, stating she was sorry and never intended to hurt me. I didn't read the entire message. I simply removed it and blocked her. I had nothing to say to her. To me, she was still dead. Following that, everything began to calm down. The hysteria around Jade's message soon subsided and people stopped discussing it. But the harm had been done. My parents were essentially social outcasts. Emily had to go to another location since she couldn't bear the continual reminders of her actions. Liam was gone, out of my life for good, and I was perfectly okay with it. Living with my grandparents was the greatest thing that could have happened to me. They provided me space to heal without pressuring me to forgive anyone. I began to feel like myself again, as if I could finally move on from everything. But I was not naive. I understood that the agony of what my family had done would always be present, lurking in the background. It resembled a scar. It would fade with time, but it would never completely disappear. I didn't need them, however. I had grandparents. I had Jade. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was creating a life that was truly mine. Update 1. So, after everything was down and the dust had settled, you'd expect life to return to normal, right? But it didn't. Not even close. I was living with my grandparents, which was the absolute nicest thing that could have happened. However, the whole situation with my family and Emily continued to weigh on me. I guess you don't get over that kind of betrayal easily. My therapist was quite helpful during this time. She wasn't a miracle worker, but she did help me figure out how to deal with my anger and despair without allowing it to consume me. It's strange because despite the fact that I'd cut off all contact with my parents and Emily, they nevertheless managed to creep back into my mind. I would suddenly think, how could they do this to me? How could my own family choose her over me? Even when I didn't want to care, it was always there. It's difficult to describe. I attempted to focus on reconstructing my life. I obtained a new job, made some new acquaintances, and even started attending school part-time. For a while, I did whatever I could to distract myself. I wasn't trying to cope with any of my feelings for my family. I reasoned that if I kept myself occupied, I might be able to forget about everything. But that is not the way things work. So one night I was scrolling through Instagram, idly as you do, and came on a post from one of my cousins. I hadn't really communicated with that side of the family since everything went down. But curiosity got the best of me. I clicked on the picture, and there it was. A family reunion. Everyone was smiling and having a fantastic time. Everyone but me. Now don't get me wrong, it wasn't like I wanted to attend that reunion. I would not have gone, even if they had begged me. But seeing that image made me realize how much I'd been excluded from their lives. It was as if I did not exist anymore. My family had moved on without me, and they didn't seem to care. It felt like I had been erased. It impacted me harder than I expected. I ended up venting to Jade about it the next day, and she said, "Screw them. You're better off without people like that. You've got your own life now." She was correct. I knew that. It still ached. I had no idea how much I still cared until I saw that idiotic Instagram post. It wasn't that I wanted to be around them again. It was more that I couldn't believe how quickly they went on, as if nothing had happened. But things grew weirder from there. About a week later, my father called. Yeah, my father. The same one who advised me to grow up and reclaim Emily after everything she'd done. Clearly I did not pick up. I left it on voicemail, and when I listened to it later, he was basically begging me to talk. He went on to say, "We've been thinking about you, and we miss you, and want to make things right." For a second, I considered calling him back. But then I remembered what happened the last time I attempted to talk to them. The gaslighting, the guilt trips, the way they made me feel like I was to blame for not forgiving Emily. I could not go through it again. So I blocked his number. My mother then tried to reach out as well. She sent me a long email in which she apologized for everything and expressed her desire to repair our friendship. The weird thing is that she never apologized for anything particular. It was all nebulous statements like, "I'm sorry you're hurt," and "We're family, and we need to come together." It didn't feel real at all, like she was just trying to smooth things over without accepting any responsibility. I did not respond. To be honest, I didn't bother reading it all. I forwarded it to my therapist and then erased it. I knew if I allowed myself to interact with them again, I'd slip back into the same toxic dynamic, and I was finally beginning to put my life together. I wasn't going to let them pull me back down. It's incredible how much cutting off toxic people can improve your life. Things began to improve after I let go of the assumption that my family would always be there for me. I mean, it wasn't ideal. I still had awful days. But I was free. No more worrying about what others thought of me. No more leaning over backward to make them pleased. It was just me, living my life and doing my own thing. But then something happened that really messed with my mind. One day I was at the grocery store minding my own business when I ran into someone. Emily. Yes, Emily. I hadn't seen her in over a year, and I hadn't planned on it. But there she was, standing in the vegetable department, looking as stunned as I was. We just stood there and stared at one another for a minute. I was going to turn around and leave, but then she approached me. She began talking extremely quickly, as if she was frantic to get everything out before I could go. She was crying, telling me how much she regretted everything, how much she missed me, and how her life had crumbled since I had cut her off. Honestly, I had no idea what to say. I was outraged, but I also felt a strange sense of sympathy for her. She looked terrible, as if life had truly crushed her down. She continued saying, I'm sorry, repeatedly. But it didn't matter. It was too late. There was nothing she could say to put matters right. I just stood there, letting her babble, until I finally said, I don't hate you, but I also don't want you in my life. And then I walked away. She did not try to stop me. She just stood there crying, as I left. It was strange since I expected seeing her to make me angry, but it did not. If anything, it reminded me of how far I had come. I was no longer that sad, damaged person. Emily and my parents had no power over me anymore. I was finished with them. For good this time. After that, I stopped thinking about Emily or my parents so much. That last encounter seemed to provide me with the closure I didn't realize I needed. I continued on with my life. And yes, it is still not perfect, but it is mine now. I am in control. I have my grandparents and my pals, which is all I need. If my family wishes to correct things, that is up to them. However, they are no longer a part of my life, and honestly, I'm fine with that. Update 2. So, after running into Emily at the grocery store and walking away, I felt I had finally put an end to all of the family turmoil. I was moving on, focusing on my own life and simply trying to live without all of that drama hanging over me. I mean, I wasn't thinking about them much anymore, which felt like a victory in itself. But then something happened that threw everything back at me. It was a normal Friday night. I was simply hanging out at home with Jade, watching an odd Netflix show and eating takeout, when I received this strange call from an unknown number. Normally I wouldn't bother answering unfamiliar calls, but something inside me urged, pick it up. So I did. On the other end, there stood this guy. He seemed unstable and didn't introduce himself right away, so I assumed it was a scam, or a telemarketing scam. But then he says, hey, it's Liam. Liam is my ex. I hadn't heard from him in years, not since his family sent him out to find Jesus or whatever after the entire Emily situation. I did not know what to say. Part of me wanted to hang up, but curiosity got the best of me, so I'm like, what the hell do you want? He pauses for a moment before saying, I need to talk to you. It's important. Important? After all this time? I was not buying it. But before I could tell him to screw off, he starts talking about how his life has been a shambles since everything happened, how he regrets what he did, and how he wants to fully apologize. I could sense the despair in his voice, and for a little moment, I felt sorry for him. But then I remembered how much he had wounded me, how much they had both harmed me, and I was in no condition to reopen that pain. I advised him, look Liam, I've moved on. I don't care about your apology. Whatever happened between you and Emily or whatever regrets you have, that's on you. I don't want anything to do with it. I was about to hang up when he said something that made me freeze. He responded, it's not just about me and Emily. There's something you don't know. I responded, what do you mean? He continues. I'm not the only one who betrayed you. Your family. There's more to the story. Now, I didn't want to believe him. I assumed he was just attempting to bring me back into the turmoil. But something about his voice, the way he stated it, did not feel like a lie. Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet with him the next day. I'm not sure why. Perhaps a part of me wanted to hear whatever he had to say in order to gain complete closure. Or maybe I was simply intrigued. In any case, I was about to encounter an unexpected situation. The following day, we met at a coffee shop. I hadn't seen Liam in a long time, and when I did, he looked different, as if life had ripped him up and spit him out. He was leaner, had bags under his eyes, and appeared worn out. Part of me wanted to feel sorry for him, but the other part remembered how he betrayed me, so I remained vigilant. We sat down, and there was a really awkward stillness for a minute. I could tell he didn't know where to begin. Finally I said, "You said there's something I don't know, so just say it." He took a big breath and began speaking. And what he told me really surprised me. Apparently my parents knew about Liam and Emily long before I did. They'd known for months, perhaps even longer. They not only knew, but also approved of it. My mother had urged Emily to pursue Liam because she believed we were incompatible or whatever. She thought Emily would be a better fit for him, and that I was overly attached to Liam. My mother had been playing matchmaker behind my back, attempting to set up my lover with my sister. I couldn't believe what I heard. I felt as if the room was spinning. I interrupted him with, "Wait, are you saying my mom was okay with you cheating on me with my sister?" He nodded, looking down at his hands, and replied, "Yeah." I didn't want to go along with it at first, but Emily kept pushing, and your mom kept saying it was for the best. I know that doesn't excuse anything, but I didn't think you knew. I just sat there, staring at him, my thoughts racing. All this time I assumed the betrayal was limited to Liam and Emily. I had no notion my mother was directing everything behind the scenes. I felt like an idiot. How could I have missed it? How could I have assumed my parents were passive in all of this? Liam kept telling about how he regretted it and wished he hadn't gone along with it. But I stopped listening. I was too busy trying to process what he had just said. My own mother had damaged my relationship because she believed Emily was better for Liam than I was. Finally, I cut him off. I didn't need to hear any more. I thanked him for telling me and left the coffee shop. My mind was racing, and I felt like I was about to explode. I couldn't believe how profound the betrayal was. It was no longer just Liam and Emily. My entire family was involved, watching me fall apart and doing nothing to stop it. Actually encouraging it. When I came home, I sat in my car for a while, simply thinking. I wanted to yell, strike something, or do anything to release my rage. But instead I sat there, numb. I wasn't sure what to do. A part of me wanted to confront my parents, blow up at them, and demand explanations. But another part of me knew it would make no difference. They'd just gaslight me again, telling me I was overreacting, as they always did. I wasn't sure what my next step would be. All I knew was that the betrayal went far deeper than I had thought. And the individuals I thought I'd never trust again have managed to wound me even more. Update 3. So when I discovered my own mother was behind the whole affair with Emily and Liam, I felt like I was living in a horrible movie. I could not sleep that night. I kept repeating everything in my head. Betrayal, deceit, and manipulation. I mean, who does that to their own child? It wasn't just about the guy anymore. This was about my entire family, including my own mother, who actively tried to screw me over and thought it was okay. I awoke the next morning feeling like I was about to burst. I didn't care about moving on or remaining calm anymore. I was furious, and I needed answers. So I did something I knew I shouldn't. I drove over to my folks' place. I hadn't gone there since I cut them off, but I couldn't sit around any longer. I needed to understand why. When I arrived, I didn't bother knocking. I had a key, so I simply let myself in. My parents were in the kitchen preparing breakfast as if nothing had happened, utterly unaware of the impending bombing. They looked surprised to see me, especially my mother. My father gave me an uneasy smile, as if he wasn't sure whether he should be glad I was there or terrified. I did not spend time with trivial conversations. I blurted it out. "Did you know about Emily and Liam? Have you set them up?" My mother's face grew pale. She did not respond immediately away, and I could see the gears spinning in her head as she tried to find out how to spin this. My father looked puzzled, as if he had no idea what I was talking about. But my mother knew. Why does that matter now? She finally asked, trying to dismiss it as if it were no great issue. I lost it. I slapped my hand down on the table and exclaimed, "Why does it matter? Are you serious? You ruined my life. You stood by and watched while I was falling apart, and you did nothing. You let Emily and Liam hurt me because you thought it was for the best." My father's expression changed as I stated that. He glanced at my mother as if he was piecing everything together, as if he too did not know the whole story. "What is she talking about?" he questioned her. My mother tried to calm me down. She began speaking in the condescending tone she always used when she believed I was being dramatic. She responded, "You were too attached to Liam. It wasn't healthy. I thought if Emily was with him you'd finally see that he wasn't right for you. I didn't mean to hurt you. I was doing what was best for you." That's when something clicked for me. She didn't believe she had done anything wrong. In her perspective, she was assisting me by severing my bond and pushing Liam towards Emily. She didn't apologize. She wasn't apologizing. She was explaining it as if she were a hero in the twisted fiction she had crafted. I questioned my father. "Did you know?" He looked at me, then at her and replied, "No, I didn't. I had no idea she was involved." He appeared to be going to vomit, as if I had punched him in the stomach. At this time, I didn't care anymore. There was no excuse to make any of this acceptable. I had had enough of trying to comprehend. My mother kept talking, trying to explain that she was only looking out for me and doing what she believed was best, but I wasn't listening. All I could think of was how I'd spent months loathing Emily and Liam, despite the fact that the true genius behind everything had been sitting there in front of me the entire time. "I can't believe you," I interrupted her in mid-sentence. "You didn't care about what was best for me. You just wanted control. You've always wanted control. And now, because of you, I lost everything." I could see my father becoming angry as well. He stepped up and asked, "Why didn't you tell me any of this? Why would you go behind my back like that?" But my mother was still locked in her own little universe, defending herself. "I didn't think it mattered," she replied. "Emily was better for Liam, and I was trying to protect our family. I could not handle it anymore." I told her straight up, "You did not protect anything. You destroyed it, and I will never forgive you for this. Ever." And with that, I left the house. As I walked away, I could hear my father yelling at her, but I didn't stay to hear what further was said. I was finished. I'm done with everything. On the way back, I felt unusually peaceful. I believe I anticipated feeling more, I'm not sure, relieved. Confronting her would provide me with some sort of closure, but it did not. If anything, it merely confirmed what I already knew. I couldn't trust my family, not my mother, not even my father is present at this point. They were not the people I assumed they were, and they never would be. When I returned to my grandparents' home, I told them everything. They were stunned but not surprised, if that makes sense. They'd always had doubts about my mother, but they didn't want to intervene. Nonetheless, they were supportive. My grandfather hugged me and said, "You did the right thing by confronting her. But you don't owe them anything. You've got your own life to live now." And he was correct. I had my own life to live. I'd been furious and wounded for so long, but at the end of the day, all I could do was move on. I couldn't influence what my family did, but I could control how much space they took up in my thoughts. I haven't spoken to my parents since that day. My father sent me a number of texts apologizing, but I never replied. I haven't seen or heard from Emily since that day at the grocery store. And Liam? He's merely a ghost from my past. Someone I no longer think about. What I've learned from all of this is that even the ones who are meant to love you the most can hurt you in unexpected ways. But that doesn't mean you have to let them continue to hurt you. I've created my own life now, surrounded by people who genuinely care about me, my grandparents, my friends, and Jade. They are my genuine family. They were the ones who stood by me when everything came apart. And now I am completely at ease. It took a long time and was not easy. But I'm fine with where I am. My family may still be living their lives, but I am also living mine. And for the first time in years, it seems like it belongs to me.